So there are two main hair transplant techniques, FUE and FUT. Today, the majority of people go with the FUE technique. The FUE technique is perceived as more modern, more cutting edge, and just better. But is it? In this video, I'm going to give you 5 advantages of FUT over FUE. Let's dive into the video. Let's have a quick video of what the FUT process involved. So the FUT process, you are taking a section of the scalp, usually from the back of the head, and you actually dissect and cut out a section of the scalp and you take it out. It's a little bit gruesome, but once you do that, you have to stitch together the gap and hopefully it will heal, but it will leave a scar. And then you take the section of scalp that you've just taken out, you put it under the microscope and you get all the hairs out and you implant the hairs into the scalp, and the result hopefully should be something like this. Let's have a look at the FUE method, and with this one it's slightly different. You have to shave the donor area where you're going to get your grafts, and usually again this is from the back of the head, and instead of dissecting and cutting a section of the scalp, you actually individually take each hair, usually with a punch or with a tool like that. And it's quite laborious because you have to take every single hair, every single follicular unit one at a time, and then you go to the recipient area or the bulb area and you have to implant each follicular unit, each follicle one. Soon we're going to see another close-up of the hair being implanted. Takes a lot of time, and here we go. This is the hair being implanted one at a time. Very slow process, and hopefully the results should be very good, provided you see a skilled surgeon. But let's dive into the first reason, and the first reason is cost. FUT is almost always cheaper than FUE. Sometimes but as much as 50% cheaper, because it's less time consuming, it's less fiddly, it's less technical. It tends to be a lot cheaper. Second reason sometimes FUT might be preferred is higher graft yield. So this basically means more of the hair that is transplanted actually yields growing hair. So if you have 100 grafts done and 50% survive, that's a 50% yield. And it has been proven beyond doubt that FUT yields higher graft yield compared to FUE. Third reason we might want to go for FUT is higher graft quality. So with FUE, there's a lot more of something called follicular transection. So this is basically damage during the process of taking the hair out and transferring it and implanting it. There's usually some damage, and that is more pronounced with fine hair. With FUT, we find the follicular damage is minimal compared to FUE, so you get better graft survival and of course higher yield. Fourth reason is that FUT grafts are typically a lot tougher than FUE, so they're not damaged easily during the procedure, probably because they have that protective. Because remember, as I showed you in the video, when you're taking out the FUT grafts, you take out the entire section of the scalp with the dermis, with the protective fatty layer, so the hair has got all its protective tissues around it, so it's a lot tougher and it survives at a higher rate compared to FUE grafts. FUT is less likely to result in the harvesting of non-permanent hair. So let me first explain what non-permanent hair is. So let me explain what this non-permanent hair business means. So for example, imagine if you were receding here at the front, you decided to go and have a hair transplant just to fix your front, and you went to your clinic and they decided to go ahead with the hair transplant, and say they've decided to take hair from your donor area, from the top of your crown where you don't currently have any hair loss. They've taken the hair from the crown and transplanted it into the front, the receding area. Now that hair that you've just taken from your crown is got a high chance of being non-permanent hair. The reason is, what if 5-10 years down the line you start to lose hair at the top of your head and you realize, oh my god, I've taken hair from there and transplanted it into my receding front line, and now that hair that you've just transplanted, because it's not a permanent hair, it's gonna fall out. So it's really important when you're doing a hair transplant, you take hair from an area that has got a high chance of being permanent hair, usually the back of the head and the sides, and you avoid hair that is kind of further up, because that hair has got a higher potential of being lost as a result of your baldness progressing. This is a lot less likely with FUT because harvesting is done from the scalp hair that is more likely to be permanent. It's not all good news. FUT does have some downsides. One of the downsides is that it leaves a scar, and if you are prone to scarring very easily, your scar might be a lot bigger than usual. Another downside is that the recovery tends to be a little bit more painful than compared to FUE. Anyway, if you think this video is about who's better, FUE or FUT, you've really completely missed the point. This video is about what procedure is suitable for you. You need to sit down with your clinic and discuss both procedures, the pros and cons, and see what's best for you in your particular case. I'm out of here. Take care. Make sure you subscribe. See you soon.